Hello YouTube, this is a video going over Los Ratones and their chances in the LEC. I wanted to give my POV as an ex-pro player on everything that they need to do to get into the LEC and how it would look like. And also some of the reasons why I'm actually really optimistic about this team, and why I have hope now when previously I didn't so much do so. And in doing so, I really wanted to analyze one of their most impressive games that I've seen them play, which was their Game 3 against EC Japonese Corp in the EMA Masters final. If you are interested in the financial side of things and all the things that they need regarding sponsors and how close they actually are to getting to LEC, then I would highly recommend you check out Rival's video, which I think broke it down very well. This is a video more about just the gameplay aspect of things and analyzing what are they really good at, what they need to improve upon, how could they get really good, what would their realistic chances be in LEC, and what would they need to level up, and what are my thoughts. Let's dive right in to a little game analysis here. So first things first, what I want to talk about a little bit when it comes to this game is the two team comps. So I thought Los Ratones would 100% lose this game for a few reasons. First of all, if we talk about the fundamentals of a good draft, usually one of the first things that is mentioned is you need a front line and you need crowd control and engage. In this composition, Los Ratones have pretty much no front line. Their only front line could be Gragas going tank. It's the mouse, so he's gonna go AP, and they have barely any CC, right? You have the Gragas E, and I guess you have Lulu Polymorph. Other than that, you really don't have anything. So in my head, I'm thinking to myself, how does Los Ratones draft actually start a fight? I don't see it. I don't see them being able to start a fight, and my view of the game is if you can't start a fight, it's very hard to get winning fights, because you need to be the one engaging to find an opportunity for a fight to be good. So how can they win this game? Well, they need to play incredibly patiently. Every time they lose control of an objective, none of their champions can face check, only like slowly with Nidalee Spears and Gragas Qs. So if they lose control of an objective, probably they have to drop it, which means that tempo is incredibly important. And if they're ever late on the map, they should always look to cross map. And when it comes to actually playing out fights, it's very important that they play it incredibly slow, because if someone goes in, they'll probably die. Like if the Nidalee jumps in or if the Gragas jumps in, they need to only go in when the fight is already kind of decided, and the rest of them need to poke, which puts a huge emphasis on Velia, Nemesis, and Crowny to find good angles to get chunks so that they can generate pressure without having a front line to do so for them. Overall, an incredible difficult comp to play. And then you tack on the lane matchups, which the bot lane matchup I think is very difficult as you're getting really pushed in. Sivir already gets pushed into Seri, but then you add on the Karma into the Lulu and you have a very hard poke lane. And then I also just have a general dislike of Nidalee because I think the champion is very hard to pilot. Velia did pilot very well this game. I think you here have a draft on your hands, ladies and gentlemen, that is very, very difficult to play. But let's see some of the ways that Los Ratones managed to avoid this and how the game went in general. The early game was not too significant. Biggest thing is Crowny made a little mistake as he tried to go for a little bit of a roam here and ends up dying. But overall, the early game was very slow, which you kind of expect with these few comps. For the side of IJC, they were able to get a slight lead on the K'Sante, getting a plate, having a little 200 gold lead. And for the side of jungle, Lilia got a slight camp lead, so she's also a little bit ahead. And here we see like Crowny trying to kind of salvage to move to play here, and then ends up going down just due to kind of like disrespecting, trying too hard to contest when, you know, there's nothing here, you know, it's just completely running it down. That's not too important because Velia is able to pick up the Drake. They've been very, very good at this. They've been very good at cross-mapping grubs for Drake, and it's going to be a consistent trend moving forward. First, I just want to kind of like talk about like what happened in the game, and then we'll talk about the good stuff that Los Ratones do later on. So here again, they're getting kind of fisted on bot. Partially this is the matchup. The other part is just Los Ratones bot lane is trading a bit too much. And then Velia is playing for topside camps, while Lilia is bot side. Partially this is because of the matchup. Seri Lulu loses push, they get poked out. But it's also just Crowny not quite respecting the fact that his jungler is on top side, and he actually dashes forward towards this Karma. And I think this kind of shows a lot of the inconsistencies that Crowny's had, in my opinion, where he's just not really respecting weak side well enough, or not really tracking enemy jungler well enough, and it results in both him and Reckless dying. But Los Ratones do pick up the 4 grubs and a really good TP by Nemesis to catch the bot wave, and then a really smart proxy by Baus into picking up this mid wave means that in reality they should have lost a full wave bot, but instead they only lose 2 minions mid, and Yon is able to pick up a plate. Overall, not too bad in terms of waves lost, but still, this Seri is down nearly 1,000 gold on the Sivir. So then how does Los Ratones now claw their way back? They're playing a very difficult team composition and their bot lane is losing, so it's hard to start any fights around bot side and it's really hard to make any plays on Yone. So Velia cleverly recognizes that the only real lane that he can play around is Babus in the top side because he has some CC for his spear and that's where he can get things going. So first here they cover both sides so that Nemesis can farm and push out, and then we'll see Velia looking to play up towards this top side, making some plays happen alongside Baus. So Baus ends up going down because he goes for a bit too much of an optimistic proxy. And here, a further showcasing of Baus's really clever map movements and how he uses proxy really well. Both top laners are proxying, but Baus is quite a bit faster, which he uses to move to mid. So therefore, Crownie starts to fight the Sivir because Grace is moving and Grace is able to collapse. Baus does end up misplaying this. Like he misses the E flash onto Sivir, so he doesn't get her. And then I think he kind of fucks up the ulti as well. So that's unfortunate. Sivir should have died here, but still really good map movements. They're able to get the Sivir flash, and they're just barely not able to kill the Lilia, which is also quite unfortunate. But they also do get out, so it ends up just being Sivir flash for Gragas flash and Cassandra flash. Then, however, Velia finds some magic. This is a crazy play right here. Sneaks in, jumps over, finds the Lilia, takes her down, right? Beautiful. And then he tries to go for the Sivir as well, which, you know, it's a bit too much. Bit of a mistake here from Velia, just overestimates his damage pretty hard, even if she didn't have barrier, you know, it wasn't really close. But still finds a big shutdown onto the Lilia and is kind of back in the game for himself. So what have we seen so far that have been remarkable or noteworthy from Los Ratones? For me, we've seen really clever use of proxying by Baus to find angles to move on the map. We've seen a few mistakes by Crownie when it comes to just disrespecting the enemy and playing weak side poorly, which led to bot lane falling behind quite hard. And then Velia finding a good cheese opportunity onto the Lilia using vision well, but still being down a little bit of gold and being a little bit too overeager. Here we actually see Los Ratones support and jungle start to really split up, as Velia is starting to play for his topside camps while Reckless is bot side. Here, Reckless decides to actually stay. This is because Nemesis is going to TP back and they want to try to punish this Yone. I don't mind the idea, but I think it's a bit maybe overeager, because what's going to end up happening now is that enemy gets the Herald and they get full control of this mid lane. I would have maybe liked to see Reckless base. Tristana pushes this wave, moves to mid, and then they can regain control of mid. Because now Yone plays it smart here and E's and then ultis the wave and can clear the wave safely. He does get a little bit chunked, but really not too much. And enemy gets the Herald, which you wouldn't contest the Herald anyways. But I think if Tristana could now hover to mid with Lulu coming from base, then this Herald placement from enemy could even be a fight for Los Ratones, or it could be a favorable defense. While now, Brownie is really zoned. He has to walk all the way around, and this ends up being Raptors for the Lilia, and also a second mid-tower crash, which feels really bad. However, on the opposite side of the map, Velia recognizes that top lane is the only lane that he can really gank and make anything happen in, and he's able to pick up a kill onto Howling, which is a really nice adaptation. I also think how Los Ratones retake the map here is really nice. You'll see that Nemesis gets ulted by Lilia, and then here Reckless cancels the Lilia W with his ulti, and Baus TPs behind them and has a great flank. But here you can see one of the kind of flaws of this Los Ratones comp is that despite having this great angle to fight, this would be a great spot to fight, right? The champions you have are quite useless at starting a fight. Like Gragas without ulti here can only really slow them. Tristana can only do so much. Lulu can only do so much. And same with Seri, right? They don't really have anybody that can really CC and make this fight really happen. So enemy is able to just run away, Karma flashes, and they are out. Still, they're able to force them out and get a flash onto the Karma, and they're buying time for their team comp. So here, Los Ratones macro is very interesting. It has its upsides, but it also has its downsides. So Los Ratones have continued to realize that Cassandra is only the real person they can punish, as he's going for these proxy angles. So now Baus is coming from behind. Crownie is also moving, but here is where I don't like that much what Los Ratones do. They have 2 people bot lane and they have 3 people top lane, but they have nobody mid. What I would have liked to see instead is that Reckless is not opening towards bot here, he's opening towards the rest of his team. Nemesis is just dropping this bot wave or catching this bot wave and then immediately moving to mid so that they can defend this mid tower and someone catches mid lane, because it looks really weird on the map when you have 2 people bot lane like this and 3 people top lane and nobody mid. So I would have wanted Nemesis now to be mid, catching this wave, defending this tower, and that way as well, they can't get collapsed on. Because what could happen here is instead of Karma hitting this mid tower, Karma now moves with Lilia and Yone here, and they start fighting Reckless and Nemesis. And this can easily be either them losing bot tower or them even getting dove if they get chunked. But it's a good cross map play. I like that Los Ratones are committing fully to this cross map, because what it just means is that they're actually able to get some gold down on their own, while if they were to just keep farming, enemy would get the Drake for free, and Los Ratones would not really be able to do anything. But now this way, if we check gold here, we can see that after Seri gets this tower, she's still behind quite a bit, but she's actually able to get some gold of her own. They're also able to get a good cheese onto this Yone. I think this kind of showcases a little bit of noobness from enemy team, because like if this Karma is smarter, like why is Karma hitting midwave? You know, like it's so bad, it's so bronze. Because Karma sees, if we look at their POV, Karma sees everybody, right? Karma has literally no reason to hit minions with Sivir. Sivir kills minions very fast. We all know this, right? Karma should be running into enemy jungle. She should be looking to get deeper vision. She should be looking to poke out enemy bot lane and playing full strong side bot side. But Karma is a noob, so Karma is hitting mid minions, which means that Yone has nobody to give him any sort of safety, which he should have. Bot side should be the strong side of IJC, and they should be playing hard towards bot with Lilia hovering bot after the Drake. But instead, it's Yone that actually ends up getting cheesed, which is a really good cheese from Los Ratones, because like Karma and Sivir are both on vision, and it results in them getting Yone flash boss ulti and killing him, giving Nemesis a little nice shutdown. A mistake from IJC, especially their support, ends up being a big play for Los Ratones, but it's really good that they recognize these small windows where enemies showing on vision and taking advantage of those plays. And Babus just kind of runs it down. I think this team for me especially, Crowny and Baus still has a tendency to kind of just make random mistakes like this, where they just don't expect people. Like, you know, some of the defs Babus has are good defs, but like this one, for example, is just him not thinking, kind of autopilot, just losing it. I think that's definitely a big problem that they do have to address, because it's against better teams. Defs like these could result in an Atakan, it could result in like huge tempo loss, it could be really, really bad for the game. Now, after this point, the game will slow down for quite a bit, but I want to showcase the Los Ratones Atakan sequence because I thought it was really, really nice. So still, we see Reckless pretty much just posturing around Nemesis at all times. One of the things that I do like that Reckless has done this game is just essentially said, Brownie, you're inting, I'm going to play with Nemesis. He's going to be more strong than you, and it's going to be better to fight around him. I think that's a really good adaptation to make when you fall behind on bot, to just kind of play fully for someone else on the map, and that way you actually still have a win con and a lane to fight through. I do think that maybe Reckless takes it a little bit to the extreme, where he's always laning alongside Tristana, when I would like him to go for more deeper vision and walk more with Velia and make some of these cross maps happen. But I like the idea. Let's talk about this Atakan. So, Baus has TP, Yone has TP, Baus really wants to push this wave, and then he wants to teleport, right? IJC has started the Atakan, they have Cassandra to tank it, they have pretty good damage to it. However, Los Ratones have a great poke. Tristana at this point, level 14, has really good range, and Nidalee Spears are starting to hurt quite a bit. IJC wants to try to just start this Atakan and look for a fight, while Los Ratones want to poke them out. So, first of all, I like here that they're playing it very slow. You can see that nobody is running in just yet. Crowny is going for the mid wave, Baus is going for the TP after he's already pushed the top wave, and everything is happening kind of just like slow and steady. No rush, no rush. Now they're losing minions on mid. Yone has to catch top wave before he thinks about TPing. Crowny recognizes the fact that nobody's catching mid and is then hitting a mid tower, which causes Sivir to want to move to mid. And then when Sivir actually ends up moving to mid, this is when Los Ratones are the ones to start the Atakan, because they want to keep this Atakan going, because they know that Sivir wants to catch this mid wave. Someone needs to stop Seri from taking this mid tower, right? So now Nemesis is the one taking over Atakan with Baus guarding, and that way Sivir has to make a choice here. Do I want to fight this Atakan, or do I want to go mid? And they end up choosing Yone to TP to mid, which means that Yone is really far from this Atakan fight and Crowny can move first. And then when it comes to the actual fight, I love that Nemesis just jumping on this Cassandra, gets a really good chunk, has the W reset, so despite getting Lilia ulted, he's completely fine. Baus does a good ulti just to buy a lot of space and time. Crowny's on a flank here, faster than the Yone. And here we see in my opinion, the really good qualities of this LR that I think a lot of LEC teams honestly miss. Because let me tell you this. If you watched much Fnatic, you'll notice that one of the things that they miss is discipline. And what you need in a fight like this is discipline. You need to understand that your team comp needs to play extremely slow, because if you don't, either Gragas, Nidalee, Zeri, or Tristana will always hint it. But what we see them do instead is play it very, very slow. Just Tristana walking up, pressuring, not greeting too much to try to get any auto attacks, but just forcing them out. Do you see how they slowly retook all this space? Not doing anything crazy, not anything crazy. Just a little spear here, a little Tristana auto attack there, just clicking up. And that way, enemy is forced to back off because they're getting chunked by the Atakan. And now it ends up being an Atakan for the side of Los Ratones, with enemy not really being able to contest as they're too late to retake the space. And then here, again, great space holding by both Crowny and Nemesis. We'll see that they're both utilizing their defensive tools nice. Nemesis buffers the K'Sante Q3, and Crowny is just holding his ground, ulting, and takes down the K'Sante. And you can see the biggest reason and why this all works out is because Los Ratones are better at holding space, holding ground, than what IJC are, as they're quickly to give it up and quickly to try to retake it even when they can't. I think we could all tell here that this Atakan is gone, but IJC are still wanting to contest despite the fact that they're chunked and they have no position. So they're still kind of like tunnel visioned and they don't have the discipline required to play this sequence out, while Los Ratones do. And then let's talk about where Los Ratones essentially won the game, because after this, the game continues to kind of just slow down as they just farm for items and just ping pong waves, which isn't the most interesting to talk about. Just good fundamentals, killing, not much to talk about. Enemy cross maps the Herald for tier 1 top, or cross maps the Drake rather for tier 1 top. Let's talk about how Los Ratones won this game. Here we have a sequence where Yone is top and Zeri is in base. It's a 3v3 around mid lane, because Yone is top, but then bot lane is here. And it is Nemesis that looks for a chunk onto Sivir, while Velia is looking for a chunk onto Nidalee. And you see how slow and calculated they're playing, just looking for chunks like this. It's really good that Nemesis here is looking for this chunk rather than going for this top wave. And just this chunk alone allows them to start the Nash, and it's a slow response from the enemy team that allows them to rush down the Nash. Due to the fact that Lilia was chunked, she went to do Wolves, she's able to get enough HP to regen back up, but you can see this Nash ends up going down so fast, by the time she's here, the Nash is gone. So what allowed this to happen? What allowed this to happen was the chunk that they got onto both Sivir and the Nidalee, and all the space and ground that they got. They forced the enemy out, which gave them an opportunity to rush Nash, and they knew their Nash damage well, which means that they get the Nash. And that's already very good. Only a very good team is able to use the fact that they get an HP lead, get the space, to then get an objective such as Baron Nashor. But they win the game off of this Nash, which is crazy, right? No tier 2s have been taken, and the gold lead is pretty much equal. So how do they do it? First of all, it's Nemesis that's playing incredibly aggressively, buying a ton of space, just jumping forward, chunking down the Sivir that's outranged by the Tristana, that's making a lot of things possible in this game. And then it's a great pick onto the Lilia from Velia that ends up securing a kill for them. Lilia wants to go for Gromp, a little bit too greedy, she ends up going down, which results in Los Ratones getting both the tier 2 mid and the tier 2 bot, and the Drake. So for the game-winning play, it's again Nemesis that is the one finding incredibly creative, good angles. He recognizes that Sivir will probably take this pathing. He sweeps, so he knows Sivir has no vision. He steps slightly to the side so that he's entering the bush at an angle. That way Sivir can't see him. And then he thinks, oh, Sivir will probably take this pathing, and he jumps on the Sivir and kills their main carry instantly. And then they're able to chunk the Yone as well, and Nemesis can keep going, jumping on all of them, and they end up getting an ace here and just winning the game. And for me, this game was so impressive just due to how difficult their comp was to execute, and how much it required just patience, discipline, and spatial awareness, understanding if enemy has control, we have to respect, but if we have control, we have to play really aggressive with our carries to keep that control. You could see in this game, whenever Los Ratones had an objective that they couldn't contest, they were really willing to cross-map it, and they were not contesting it. Like, for example, this Drake. A worse team here tries to face check and fight this Drake and loses the game. This is a classic. Classic, so many teams do this. Despite not having control, you just feel compelled to fight. It's like the kill score, they have 5 kills, we have 0, we have to do something, right guys? We have to do something. Sometimes in League, doing nothing is the right play. Sometimes you just have to respect and accept and cross-map. And Los Ratones did that wonderfully this game. Now we're on to the topic of playing in the LEC, which is a bigger league, and they have to do a lot of improvements to be able to get there. Despite showing a really good game, this was, in my opinion, their best game ever, where they showcased a ton of skills and attributes that I didn't think they had in them. I'm really, really impressed with them with this game, just due to the draft and what was required out of them from this draft. So what do they require to play in LEC? Well, first of all, I think Baus needs to die less. You know, I mean, he has his good deaths, but he still has a little bit too many goofy deaths. He's reduced them a lot, which is great, but I still think that he cost his team a little bit too much. Even in this game, he had one death that I think was pretty bad, that we talked a little bit about. This one, right? Where he's just like, he's walking down mid, he knows the enemy team is there, but he just doesn't respect. And deaths like these didn't end up costing him in this game, but they can cost against better players. The second thing for the Baus is just his champion pool. I think he has his Gragas, that is an incredibly solid blind pick, and he has his Sion. But other than that, I think he needs to develop better blind picks that I hope Odoamne can help him with develop, who stand a good chance against LEC top laners that are much better at playing the counter picks and playing the matchups. I think if he has such a niche pool that he has right now, he will really struggle. I don't think you need to like eliminate the niche champions or just make him play meta. I don't think that's the right approach at all. I think trying to find other niche champions that are actually good blind picks would be really, really good for Baus. Just champions that can survive lane, has good wave clear, can kind of play the style that he wants to, that he enjoys. I think that can easily work even for LEC level. And then Velia, I think he's just been improving massively every single scrim block that I've seen him in. Just massive difference from day 1 to their finals, and no complaints from me, to be honest. And same with Nemesis. I think just Nemesis is great. I think he would do well in LEC. I think his laning phase, from watching his POVs, his comms are really, really good. I think him and Crowny are carrying the comms really hard, and they have great communication towards the team, and just the way they communicate with each other. And for example, on this Atakan play, how Nemesis was saying to play it really slow, and how Crowny was communicating that he could get the mid tower, and then communicating that Yon was late and Yon was TPing. It's so much fundamental work that Nemesis and Crowny are communicating that is really, really great for this team. I think it's helping them so much. And Crowny, my man, he plays my role. I think he needs to work on the mechanics. I think at first I thought he was just rusty, but now after having him watched play a whole split, I still think he makes too many mechanical mishaps. I think for me the most common thing that he does is he wastes his mobility spells way too much. I think even in this fight here, that was kind of free. Like here, I don't like how he uses his Seri E, you know? Like that he uses it like this, I think it's like bad. Like, why would you use your Seri E like this? You could just keep kiting the Cassandra upwards, and then you can keep fighting the enemy team. But instead, you dash into Cassandra and you get a multi. But this is the most egregious one. Like, the most egregious one is like here, for example, where he doesn't know where Lilia is, and then he dashes forward onto the Karma. You know, like he does this a lot, I feel like, where he uses his mobility in just way too aggressively, and then he gets caught off guard, and then he just dies. And it's the same thing here, right? Where he's used his mobility to get to this fight, but he still plays as if he has his mobility up. And then he's just kind of like walking forward, trying to regain the space that he can't actually regain, and just, you know, uses his just everything. Just like he could dash away now, but he ends up not dashing away, and he, you know, ends up dying. So for me, mechanics is a big one. I would recommend Crowny to just turn off chat in solo queue, stop being such a freak, stop being the sex master in solo queue, and just lock in. Let's get you challenger, buddy. Let's get you some good quality practice, because he's been in low master for too long, and the freaks have infested his brain, and they're definitely ruining his mechanics. So lock the fuck in, Crowny. I want to see you challenger. I want to see you pop the fuck off. And then for Reckless, so for me, the biggest thing with Reckless, I think he still sometimes has a bit ADC habits. I think he soaks XP a lot, which is sometimes fine. Like this game, we're watching him play a range support, so it's more fine that he's on waves, on lanes with people all the time. But I would like to see him play a little bit more crazily when he plays on these like engage supports, that he's playing more for deeper vision. He's playing less with his carries and more with Velia. I do think sometimes he's kind of just glued to either Crowny or Nemesis at all stages of the game. But I think a lot of the time, a great support jungle, it's key that they always play together to make things happen on the map. But I do think mechanically, he's very good. I played duo queue with him. I like playing with him. I think just how he plays lane is good, and he understands like laning fundamentals very well from his ADC days. And, you know, it's an ADC on support, so they're always going to have pretty damn good mechanics. I just think sometimes he ends up soaking a little bit too much XP, not looking quite for enough playmaking, not looking quite for enough vision, and being a little bit too scared to die. You know, it's a classic. Most ADC players are scared to die, so it's not too surprising. It's something that I think you could still work a little bit on. Overall, I think if they work on these things, they have a chance in LEC. But to end this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about why I think they shouldn't be in a rush to get to the LEC. What they have right now is a really unique, special experience. It's a special team that is incredibly fun to watch, filled with really cool personalities that have been great, and they have achieved great things. But my worry is that I gave you guys now a few of the things that I would want to see them improve upon if they get to LEC. But the reality is that LEC is a really high level. If they go to LEC, even if they improve on all the things that I said, they could still struggle. And if they do, what happens? I think a lot of the magic of the team can be lost if certain players need to be replaced, if they can't adapt, or if the team environment just ends up going to shit because they're not doing well. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't go to LEC. I'm not saying that they shouldn't go to Tier 1. What I'm saying is, right now, in this very moment, you got something special on your hands, lads. You got something really, really wonderful. Be grateful for it. Live in the moment. Enjoy it while it lasts. Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. All we got is today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And it was a little bit all over the place. I've been a bit scatterbrained lately. But I really wanted to make this video. So yeah, I hope you guys got some insights out of it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Check out my courses if you're interested. Links down below. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Bye-bye.